Hello everyone, welcome back to Wild Wild West's beloved Gelvin Valley. Still enjoying the map, and I'm loving to see that we have money in the bank. 42,000. Why did I think I only had 31? Well, that's interesting. You know, I was just tinkering with something. Now it makes me wonder if... Well, barley at least is headed up. I think the longer we hold off selling it, the greater it'll go. Tantalizingly, wheat is sitting up there at 230. Oh my goodness. Oh, need to change a few things as to how we sell crops in here. Alright, let's get a move on and clean up the rest of the bales in here. Do we have any others up here? I think we have cleaned most of the field, just 2 more on the other side, and we'll be done with this windswept knoll. Don't forget the one in the shade. Alright, I think that takes care of that. So we can head down to other fields. Yes, auto load is no longer on. Whoops, except I'm heading the wrong direction. Oh, wait a minute. We got a bale over here. Maybe I need to look at this more carefully. Any other bales? Bales. That one was kind of hiding in a patch, so I guess that's kind of why I... What do you all think of those massive rocks over there? Did you like the view of the valley far below? I guess you can still kind of see it. But the trouble is, this is the bugaboo about map edges. It's this right here that you can see. You know, if you're at a downhill, it's all well and good. You can't really see it, but when you can clearly see the line, yeah. And it isn't any fault of Wes. I mean, it's just a hard problem for a mapper to deal with. Anyway, I think we have all the bales. Yes, auto load stopped once more. Let's turn on our... Oh yeah, we can get that whirly kid going. That must be something to distract her or whatever that you can get that effect. Boop. Oh, that was close. Make it out the door. I'll turn that off so we don't get totally distracted. Change the product type. Oh, I'm hitting the wrong. What? Was it left control? Oh, there goes a plane overhead. Is it delete? No, I don't want that one. Oh, it's right control that turns off the IC controls. Alright, continue. Don't have a huge number left. We're kind of heading back down the hill. We'll take care of the fields kind of around the farm itself, and then we're done. I don't think we're gonna get it. We got 15 more minutes with the Fent, and we're probably gonna need it for another, I don't know, at least double that. So we'll do what we can, but it's going to nick us a little bit more cost. Oh, it's down here. Get it down to the appropriate speed. Don't know if I can pick up this whole field. I'll get most of them. Not all, that's for sure. Well, hey, the past couple episodes I've enjoyed reminiscing on the first summer job that I ever had for another uncle who had a farm close by our home. He raised strawberries in the early days, had a little grass seed, had some He had an orchard that he started at one point for some apricots. I don't know if he ever really harvested them or did much with them. I'd have to ask him about that sometime. I think he was just trying lots of different things to see kind of what kind of agriculture he wanted to get into and what would be the easiest maybe for the best payout. And ultimately he landed as a turf farm. Sod rolls, they make for instant lawn, I guess you call it, and also a sizable nursery-based operation. Get down the mountain with this, haul it to market. Probably the best we can do is simply go out to the main drag and head off with it out there. So I think I've covered the strawberry picking days. I've talked a little about irrigation and really haven't even exhausted the topic. That's one thing that actually this particular map here in Farming Sim is set up for the soil mod. I don't have it installed at the moment. I decided to play this one without the soil mod. I have another Farm Sim 15 map that I would like to explore and learn a soil mod on Planet Ellie. Oh, where did this rainfall come from? Here we still have flowing water in the ditches, so hopefully we're not flooded out down here. Yeah, I'm still a little puzzled. I noticed some water flowing in another ditch, so not sure what's causing all this. Yeah, I don't see any flood, so we're good on that. It does seem a little high, though. I've got to say I'm a little puzzled. I know I showed everybody the script that I installed and how it raised and lowered water planes and can make running water, including a little bit of flooding. I have to admit, I'm a little baffled as to why it appears to be in operation now. We'll just pretend we didn't see it and that it's working as needed. But anyway, on the soil mod, there was a component of it that was set up to handle irrigation type needs. And I only know that it had a component for wetness or water needs of a crop. I only know that it incorporated it somehow. I don't know logistically how it was implemented. Probably what the player had to do was take a sprayer and take it out over the field and drop water. In real life, I doubt whether you would do that unless it was pretty large trees or whatever. Maybe then you could do it if it was individual plants, kind of like some kind of plantation. But a general crop, I just don't know that you would water it that way. You would have sprinklers, some kind of sprinkler or other watering system. But regardless, props for incorporating that aspect, because I don't think there has been anything since, until you get to the Seasons mod, where there was moisture built in terms of being able to harvest. Now, in the map, by the way, I reduced the bale cell trigger, so I think you get down to, there before, it used to be much higher. So let me dutifully record this on my little list, and let me see if I can actually make sure it's gonna put it where I want it. Trailer. All right. Cool. Down it goes. Flash this around. Down the mountain, we will go for another load. But on irrigation, for my uncle, last time I know I talked about, the large sets we would do on a field because the pipe was so small. And the reason we could get away with it, and I don't know that this was deliberate at all, it was just the style of pipe that my uncle happened to have. But the reason we could do it is the diameter of the hole out of which the water came was pretty tiny. And I was trying to remember just how large that it was, because here was an instance where I got a real life maths lesson, from my uncle. And it's one of those things as a kid, when you go to school and you take math as a subject, you learn how to do basic stuff in geometry, how to add, subtract, how to calculate the area of a circle or a square, this, that, and the other, even volume. You learn all that stuff. But it's kind of here's another stream running. It's an abstract concept. Yeah, we're definitely flooding. This is just a little baffling. Oh well, not going to worry about it. It's an abstract concept until you have a reason to put it to real life use. And I know that's been a common complaint of my kids, as they learn mathematics. And when you get into some of that stuff, especially as you go into high school and higher learning and you learn geometry and proofs and reasoning and logic, and oftentimes they would come home and say, where am I going to use this in my life? They've asked me point blank, have you ever used trigonometry in real life or calculus? And maybe the applications of it, what I've told them, are pretty rare, but there is a place for it, and it's useful to know. A lot of that is teaching you to learn how to learn. But this one was very practical, down to earth, if you will, basic geometry 101. And so, one of the things I remember asking my uncle, I had friends, at church or school or whatever, that I would, talk to them and say, yeah, we had the water on this field for 24 hours. And they'd say, man, what is wrong with you guys? You guys are waterlogging the fields. We do ours in a 12-hour set. You're putting on twice as much water as we are. Why would you do that? Well, so then I remember asking my uncle about it, and he said, well, the reason is it's because it's the size of the nozzle, that's the water's coming out. And I don't remember the dimensions anymore, of what the actual nozzle size was. I seem to recall, and I could be corrected on this, that it was measured in 30 seconds of an inch. And I don't know what an inch equates to in centimeters, for those used to the metric system. But a 32nd of an inch, is pretty small. It might even be smaller. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure it's smaller than a millimeter. So we're not talking very much here. And the nozzle on these pipes, I kind of am pulling numbers just out of the air, but let's say it was 3:30 seconds. I get all the bales? I think I did. Well, at 3:30 seconds, and then let's say, my friends, their pipe had a diameter output of 1/8 of an inch. That would be 4:30 seconds. So just 1/32nd of an inch more. And what my uncle told me, he said the reason, we have to do it twice as long is because they are throwing out basically twice as much water, almost. And it's kind of like, no way. You mean just adding a 32nd of an inch adds that much water? And of course, I'm thinking in my head that a 32nd of an inch is so tiny, which of course it is, but relative to 3 seconds, adding another 32nd is 25% more in diameter. Well, and what that does to the area of the circle, out of which it's coming, is it basically almost doubles the amount of surface area, which of course would be an indication of how much throughput, or volume that could be shoved through it. So I remember he kind of just gave me a wink, and he said, "You run the math and then tell me what you find out." So I dutifully went home and ran the math on figuring out just how much larger an eighth of an inch was versus 3/32. And then I could understand when you see that it's almost double the area of the size of the pipe that we were using. You can now see why we had to do everything twice as long as some of my friends, where they were working. And it's I appreciated that. He didn't give me the answer. Well, he kind of did, but he didn't do the math for me. He had me do that. And that's just a life lesson I remember learning from him. And circles can be tricky. You add just a tiny bit and you can double, triple the area kind of in a hurry up to a point. And that was just a little thing that I learned about irrigation and why our sets had to be longer than theirs. Another thing I remember him teaching me about irrigation too, when you're just an average Joe and it starts to rain, well, the first thought you may have is, yay, we don't have to irrigate, so you get out of doing that work for a while. I mean, it was hot work, it was wet, muddy, messy stuff, and like I've expressed before, tremendously good exercise. But being a kid, if you can get out of it at times, sometimes that's what you want to do. So, but that was another thing he shared with me, is just how much water is going down. And I don't remember the numbers anymore, but there was quite a bit of water that was put down when you irrigate over a 24-hour period, and measured in inches. And like I say, I don't remember the number, but he said you would have to have the equivalent in a rainstorm before you could legitimately say we can't irrigate. Because I remember before, maybe other people have seen this too, it's raining out and you go by a farmer and he's still irrigating his crop. And you say, well, why in the world is he doing that if it's raining? Well, the reason is the rain isn't going to amount to very much water, so he has to irrigate in order to put down, the amount that is needed by the particular crop. Now, maybe, depending on how much it rains, he can maybe hold it back a little bit. Maybe it doesn't need to be on quite as long. But the point is he still needs to irrigate. Yeah, and I know last time, maybe the time before, I talked a little about water rights. That's kind of a subject in its own right, where the right to use the water that's in a property is about as precious sometimes as the land itself. And occasionally, if you have the land, but you don't have the water rights, a lot of times you don't have much. You kind of need both to really have what you need in order to effectively farm it, depending on what kind of agriculture you're doing. But I remember him getting water sometimes in a little out of the way places. One area I know he had power brought in. It was just a stream that ran by one of his fields, kind of the one I described by the, used to be by a golf course. 19 and 59 minutes. What? I don't have two of these. Well, that's interesting. Huh. Well, hopefully it didn't stab me too hard on the feet. Doesn't appear to have. And, if he had tried to get water rights on this little stream today, I doubt whether he could have done it. There's more environmental regulations now. And I kind of think the irrigating he did out of it was early in the season, when it actually had running water. Write this down, record it for Russell. But there is sizable portions of the summer, there's very little water that runs in here. So I think he he mainly used water out of it, up through maybe May, June, something like that, while it had water to give. And then probably he wasn't allowed. But I mean, he kind of worked up a pump, and he had to dig, I think by hand, kind of a pool, where he could put the pump in. He installed it all himself, I believe, although the power company dropped the power off the main line so we could power the pump. But then, my brother and I would hook up pipe to the pump and irrigate. And, that reminds me of, it pains me to admit this, but, something stupid we did. I should say I did. I'll take responsibility for it. I was the older between my brother and I should have taken more responsibility. But this particular setup, where it was by the golf driving range and where he was slurping out of a little pool in a stream, for some reason the pipes that we had, it was problematic getting them hooked up. And if pipes come in all shapes and sizes, and their different companies had different types of fittings on them. So I remember one brand of pipe, it was abbreviated PPL. I don't know what it stood for. Another was called Pierce. Another was called Wade Rain. And there were some others, don't recall their names, but each one of them had their own latch. So you might have a 3-inch pipe and two different manufacturers, and the two wouldn't work together unless you got some wire and you manually wired the pipe to each other on the ends. And you had to kind of send the pipe through the fittings or whatever, or the hooks that it had, just to hold it together, because once you put water in the pipe and it was under pressure, it would eventually blow it apart. Some of the hooks would almost work together, but not quite. Tantalizingly so. And I remember this particular setup that we had at this location, there was two different manufacturers, and we put the pipes together. We tried it a number of times. Oop, hit the sign, probably did damage. Beep. And we were supposed to wire a couple pipes together in order to make it work. I don't know why we didn't have enough of the one kind of pipe to just put it all together straight. But see, wiring pipes together is a pain in the neck. And so we didn't like to do it unless we absolutely had to. And this was a case where we had to, but we kept trying to see if we could make it work with these, just the hooks that it had. So we tried again and again, and the pump kept blowing it apart, and that should have been our first clue. But eventually, it held for long enough that we were able to pedal our bikes and get out of there. And I may have even said something to my brother, let's get out of here before it blows again. Well, sure enough, it blew. And I remember my mom, dad, someone coming to my brother and I's room, we shared a room, and waking us up in the middle of the night. And I don't know how my uncle knew. Maybe he just went out to check. I don't even remember how late it was. It wasn't, I say middle of the night, but that's because we went to bed, fairly early, good time. A lot of times around 8 at night and that day. And we had to get pulled out of bed, and what we were told is the pipes, had blown. The part that we were supposed to wire and we didn't, it had blown apart. And who knows how much we cost my uncle, with water just spewing out all over the ground instead of going onto the crop. At the time, I didn't even think of that part. I just remember feeling irritated and mad because we had to get up out of bed to go fix it. And this was an instance too, another life lesson where, my uncle could have fixed it for us, but he didn't. The point was we should have done it right the first time, and then we wouldn't have had to get pulled out of bed. And, I don't know that anything like that ever happened again. So maybe we learned our lesson, or I learned my lesson. Oh, I guess I'm going too fast. Oh yeah, let me try to take that down a notch. Alright, did I get every bale in here? I think so. Alright, down to field 37. Oh, yes, auto load stop. So I'm kind of telling on myself, but you know what? I'm not the only person that was a kid once and did foolish things. This definitely was something I did horribly wrong. And like I say, I'm thankful to my uncle. He chose to make a lesson out of it, although I'm sure he probably was pretty angry, that we had done that. It probably cost him, like I say, I don't know how much, just a lost water, lost power, that wasn't attending to his crop. And he made us fix our mistake. And this time, we did it right, because we wanted it to last all night long. And guess what? When you do it right, it does. So, and I remember, that's under such high pressure coming out of those pipes. I don't know, it's maybe, I'm sure there's a different equivalent under the metric system, but I seem to recall it was over 100 pounds, 100 psi, pounds square inch on the pipe. So pretty high pressure. And when the pipe blew open, it wasn't a perfect blowing open, if you will, meaning it didn't totally separate the pipes. Opened them just enough that the entire line lost pressure and most of the water, went out the gap. Well, it left a small enough gap that it just dug a massive hole in the earth. And it was under high pressure, so it was spurting down, into the dirt and just digging away at it. And I remember one of the irritations of going to fix your mess is it's now, we could have done it in daylight, but now it's pitch black. My brother and I are out there. I think we had a flashlight. But you don't know what you don't know. And you go in there and you see the mess, and first thing, there's water going everywhere. You got to turn the thing off. And so you see sitting water, but you don't necessarily know how deep it is. So you go over there, and I think I stepped right in this hole. I kid you not, it was 3-4 feet deep into it. So I about busted my leg, right off the bat. Immediately got wet all over. So, like I say, we were pulled out of bed to do this. So we were not in a good mood, needless to say. But it also demonstrated the power of water under pressure and what it'll do. And I don't remember, we maybe filled in the hole later somehow. Don't recall those details. But eventually got it fixed, back on track. But it definitely was a problem. Another thing on irrigation, kind of as I'm thinking of it here, there was other, I talked about water rights and where my uncle chose to put pumps to get water. Sometimes he would dig a well. Nowadays, digging a well is very expensive, particularly if it's a dry hole. You could spend all this money, you still got to pay the guy that drilled the well. And then if you come up dry, you're kind of doubly screwed. You spend all that money and don't have much, or don't have as much as you think, could have been there. And this would be another whole video talking about the fine art of, I think they call them water witches or whatever. And that whole thing just baffles me, how there's some people out there that have a gift, at being able to determine where water is, and some of them are pretty good at it. And you wonder, it can't just be random, not when somebody, builds a career out of locating water. And, whether they use these metal rods or just what it is. I've heard even of peach boughs of trees or something being used, and I just wonder, it's like, how, what reacts, what is the science behind a piece of wood, that somehow mysteriously tells the person holding it that there's water down there. And like I say, some of these guys are really, really good. They can pinpoint, locate it, and they can tell you how deep you need to go. and they'll tell you how much water is in there. You know, through experience, well, we think that there's, 150 gallons per minute. How they determine all that, or just what is taking place, is really beyond me. All right, another load. What is my cache? Maybe it's just... Yeah, sorry, I'm just wondering how... My cache is up to 52, so... Please, got a few more to haul, and so we'll see kind of where we end up. I've been kind of taking the long way here. Maybe I should try to get back to the field a little more direct route. And maybe I need to finally invest in a chainsaw so I can genuinely clean it out. There's kind of a low-hanging tree. I've been meaning to take it out for some time. Oh, anyway, I was speaking about some of the creativity of my uncle. We had another parcel close to the field that was by the golf driving range. It was just across the road. And he wanted to use the same water supply, that we had used on the side of the road over by the golf driving range. But of course, when you have a... Oh, shoot. Is this going to make it through? By gum, we made it through. Maybe we need to head out through the field next time so I can get around that tree. Maybe I can come up through... Yeah, I can go through there. I'm still baffled by the water, but whatever. There's a few more bales to pick up over there. So anyway, I remember helping him. He put a pipe. He found a culvert, and he ran an irrigation pipe through it to the other side of the road. And I don't know if he had to get a permit to do that, and talk to the county or whatever, or if he just did it. Something tells me he just went in and did it, without talking to anybody. Of course, bureaucracy sometimes, is a huge stifling to creativity. So that's why I say something tells me he just, like he sometimes would say, grab and growl. You just do it and get the job done. Because if you wait too long asking for permission, it never gets timely done. So, anywho, we all heard the bell go, so I think I will cut the episode here. Thank you for coming along on another episode on Gelvin Valley. You all have a wonderful day. I will see you on the next one. Goodbye.